Hello and welcome to the Newsroom with Sana. Today we're going to take a look at a number of different developments taking place both nationally and internationally. And our focus first is going to be what is happening in the country, and especially what transpired over the weekend in condemnable and tragic acts of terrorism that were then, of course, thwarted with the full preparedness of Pakistan security personnel and armed forces. And this is important, particularly in terms of the kind of threat that Pakistan continues to face within the region, coming in from Afghanistan and sponsored by India. The Fitna al-Hindustan, which are the terrorist organizations that are operating in Balochistan as they are being declared. This is, of course, very integral in the fight against terrorism that Pakistan has been continuing for quite some time now. In what we see was great coordinated and intelligence-based operation. 145 terrorists were killed in just 40 hours. And this is, of course, a remarkable achievement. However, the ways in which this aspect needs to be dealt with and how the root cause of terrorism has to be eliminated is a question that we'll be focusing on in our first segment. Our next one is going to take a look at what is happening in the region, with India increasing its defense and infrastructure budget by 9 and 15%. And this is very important also, particularly in terms of the context of geopolitical shift, especially in the aftermath of the India-Pakistan conflict in May last year. And then, of course, the kind of increased tariffs that India continues to face from the United States. And what is the stance now that the country has, and how different regional and international players are looking at it, and what it hopes to achieve from these budget raises. And lastly, we're going to take a look at Pakistan's decision of the Pakistan Cricket Board that has decided to boycott the match with India on the 15th of February. It will be participating in the T20 World Cup, but it will not be taking the field with India on the 15th of February. And that is a statement put in solidarity with Bangladesh and the kind of double standards that the ICC has put forward with regards to how the situation and the cricket ground was politicized and the unfair treatment that was meted out towards Bangladesh. And so that's going to be our focus in the last segment of the show today. We're going to be starting off with focusing on what happened in Balochistan and how exactly this is being dealt with at the moment. And for that, we've been joined by Major General retired Zahid, who's a defense analyst. Thank you very much, Zahid, for being part of the show today. Your take in terms of when we see what has happened over the weekend, of course, the kind of targeted planning that we see coming in from organizations such as the PLA and other groups now termed the Fitna al-Hindustan, to emphasize on India's role and involvement within these groups and this province in particular. I want your take in terms of what really is the way in which Pakistan has to handle this menace. The intelligence-based operation that we saw has been conducted is, of course, something that we're all proud of and stand by. But in terms of dealing with these terrorist organizations, how do you think Pakistan needs to proceed further?
Sana, thank you very much for having me. I think what we are witnessing today, especially in Balochistan, and the rising numbers, and especially this magnitude which we have just recently gone through, I think it's a coordinated assault, and it's not an assault on one province or one region. It is basically an assault on very fabric of our state. So this is very serious. And these events, these are depicting that, these are showing that, our response has to go beyond just, reactive operations or reactive measures. Of course, we are taking many preemptive measures as well, because our intelligence sources have already had always achieved many preemptive successes. But we cannot afford to, let this become a new normal, that this can happen again and again and again. So what is required is that it is now time for the national strategy, a joint strategy, which is being emphasized. And that strategy must pair our military response with our political and, the social resolve. So we have to show our national resolve that we are going to eradicate this menace. And for that, this collaboration, this cooperation within our own, elements is very, very important and critical.
Right. We've also been joined by Hamza, Shafqaat, who's Additional Chief Secretary, Balochistan. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamza, for joining us and being a part of the newsroom today. What has happened, of course, over the weekend is condemnable and tragic. And, of course, we stand by in solidarity with everyone who has lost their lives and those that have injured. And the successful intelligence-based operation also speaks volumes. Can you help us understand the kind of effort that was put in as part of these intelligence operations, as the Chief Minister was also pointing out?
So instead of just telling you what has happened in the last 2 days, I think we'll have to go back a couple of years. In August 2024, Operation Hero of One was launched, and it was carried out by the same organization, banned organization. It is also banned by America now, by the State Department. This organization, which we call FAH, Fitna al Hindustan, they carried out massive attacks all around the province in 2024, and we had to suffer a lot of casualties. After that, a provincial action plan was formed, and a series of reformist agenda was taken up, and steps were taken. The biggest step that we've taken is the formation of an intelligence threat assessment center, which is called PIFTAC, number one. The second step that the new government has taken, it is called the establishment of BISA, BISA, Balochistan Integrated Security Architecture, which is now fully functional with over 20 departments all joined on a portal who are changing information almost on daily basis. More than 4,000 transactions take place on that portal. And now the speed of the work has increased a lot. Number two. Number three was that we've amended two laws. One is the Anti-Terrorism Act and the other is Balochistan Witness Protection Act. We are working on the Prosecution Act as well and the Prison Act as well. Number four, we've abolished the levies department and we have merged it all to the police. And now entire province is a area. Previously, it was divided into two areas with different jurisdictions. Finally, we've also abolished civil defense department and it has been merged with the bomb disposal squad of the special branch. So this time we were fully prepared, and that is why the operation Hero of 2, which was supposed to take place in August 2025, could not take place. And at that time, with the help of intelligence agencies, we were able to arrest Mr. Usman Qazi. If you remember his name, he was a doctor, professor, and he was part of the railway station attack and he was planning another attack. Similarly, four more terrorists were captured, and that is why August 2025 operation was delayed. In November, they planned it again. It was again delayed and we averted it. Then they planned it again in December, and in December again, there was almost no incidents, whereas last time in December, there were more than 27 incidents. Now, when January started and because of snow, we had received threat, but we were not sure of the exact time of when this was about to happen. This time they changed their strategy and they attacked on the sunrise time on 31st. But mind you, even 2 days before this incident which happened, our forces, based on intelligence input, they carried out a grand operation in Shaban where more than 30 terrorists were killed using tech int and using technical equipment. Then another operation was carried out in Panjgur where more than 20 terrorists were again killed. So 50 terrorists were already killed in all of this. But on 31st January at 5:30, 5:45 a.m., they managed to gather this few people, terrorists who were being supported by India, and they were being given rupees 3 lakh per month as a salary, and their families were also being looked after. And we are getting into the details of it. They called for a mass mobilization, but they could only manage less than 500 people, out of which 155, around 160 have already been killed, and rest all of them escaped, and now hot pursuit is going on. So the question is that people are asking me, sir, this is a security failure, and I keep on telling them that this is not a security failure. Rather, it is a very much improved and ameliorated improvised response by the state. This is the first time in the history of province that police was standing at the forefront. More than 20 of their people laid down their lives. A DSP was martyred. An SHO was martyred. A sub-inspector was martyred. The entire CTD SOW fought their way in Noshki and they laid down their lives. And the entire more than 145 terrorists were killed. Uh, and this is also the first time that on the site of blast in Quetta, the chief minister and the IG, both of them reached on the site. This has never happened before in Balochistan, not in any recent history. I cannot remember any chief minister going exactly on the site where this incident happened and gave a message to everybody that situation is normal. And to tell you that today more than 3 lakh kids were vaccinated. Polio campaign is going on. Things are back to normal. Banks are functioning. Offices are working. There are minor incidents here or there, but our law enforcement agencies are fighting it back. And I think this is our success that Indian sponsored Afghan originated organizations are doing this, but we have fought them back and we regained our control. And what have they achieved? I think this is open to debate. They have achieved nothing. They've only managed to run away. 300 of their people have ran away into the mountains, and we are following them. And more than 150 just died based on some fake ideologies that they have in their minds.
Absolutely. Mr. Hamza, stay with us and I'll come back to you with another question. General Zahid, I want your perspective on this too, given the kind of responses that we have seen, and as Mr. Hamza has been so kind to point out, there's a lot of effort that the state and the provincial governments are putting in terms of curbing terrorism. But in terms of also involving the ways that the youth especially and the public is also taken away from the possibilities of exploitation, from taking away from the elements coming in from outside of the country, especially in exploiting these sentiments, what do you think needs to be done, especially as part of the National Action Plan that was devised earlier?
Sana, most important thing is that, security cannot be implemented or you can't implement through orders, or you can't tell the society that this you have to do. It is primarily habits. If as a society and as a nation, we have developed these habits to keep ourselves secure, security, not the physical security, but also the psychological, mental security, also the confidence in the state, that has to be secure, our cultural security. These are very important things. For a long term, and I mean, even to address the short term issues, we need to inculcate this as a habit. This should be part of our curriculum. This should be part of our social training in our houses. Parenting is very, very important. And I think most important are the schools and the colleges and universities. This radicalization, this subversion is taking place in universities. People do ask us questions that, okay, we can understand that there has been deprivations for the normal public maybe, but in the recent past, we have seen that a university professor who was subverted. So why this is happening? So this is very important. I think as a society, we should understand that our future war against Pakistan will be in the same domain as we are confronting. And I think we should get down even at a very low level, in every house, in every school, in every class. We must teach them how to protect themselves. It should be part of our syllabus, and serious minds should be sitting over there. Then the social prongs, socio-economic prongs. Normally we take that all the responses have to come from the military minds, or the security operators, or the minds who are working on security. They will also come out. This is the task of the social scientists. And most importantly, this is the task of our politics, our politicians, because war is a political activity. Normally, we consider, as Hamza was also pointing out, that this is the responsibility of the military and the security forces or the government officials to execute war. No, execution of war is primarily a political activity, and the politicians have to do is because they are representing the people. They know the pulse of the people. They know the deprivations of the people. They know the weaknesses in the society. So that's how this whole of a nation approach has to be adopted. And that's if we will inculcate this as our habits, we'll keep our eyes and ears open. We'll be helping our agencies. We will understand the importance of these agencies. This is not a fun or a affair going on that public is enjoying what all is happening, or for the fun's sake. Every day we do a debate. We need to understand the plight and the pain of the families of the shodas, maybe civilians or police officers, or the police guys, or the military guys. We need to understand their plight and their pain, and we, at the end of the day, we will have to stand in front of these. We will have to be answerable to all this. So I think a whole of a nation approach has to be adopted, and we should be taking it very seriously through all angles.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Hamza, building on this, in terms of what can be done by the government, both the provincial and the federal, in terms of involving those elements that are prone to exploitation, or that these groups are exploiting to their own advantages, what it is that can be done in terms of moving forward and bringing them into this assurance that the state is there taking care of them, and that they need to be separated from any of these organizations. And I remember we had a great discussion in earlier shows as well, separating these issues from aspects of development. And add to that also, in terms of what more and more reports are coming in of more involvement of females as part of these organizations as well, that are being inculcated within these groups. What is being done in terms of adding more females in the security respondents as well, and to ensuring that there can be more agency by female-led voices too?
I think coming over to the last point first regarding the females, again, there is a lot of misinformation regarding this. In the entire history of this Baloch insurgency, there were total 18 female fighters who were actually eventually became suicide bombers, and out of those eight, five were actually victims of blackmailing, of forced marriages, and then entrapment, honey trapping, and they were brought to this side and they were made to blow themselves up. So this again, this story which is propping up that women of Balochistan are now participating in subversion and in terrorism, that is completely wrong. There were very few ladies, and all of these ladies were either being blackmailed or they were given handsome amount of money. So these terrorists, who around 400 or 500 who came out in the last 2 days, we've gathered data that all of them were getting rupees 3 lakh per month from BLA Majid Brigade. And all of that money, where is that money coming from? That money is coming from bank dacoities, and that money is coming from raw. And our counterterrorism department has already established the link. And Mr. I believe his name was Vijay Anand or Anand Vijay. He was an Indian army officer working with the raw and who was transferring money to Pakistani accounts. So I think that is not a cause of concern. Our cause of concern definitely is that there is a lot of sentiment against the government. And why is that? Because you see, Balochistan is a huge province. It is almost like 47% of the entire country, whereas the budget that we are getting is only 6%. So, in order to make a road, it is at least 7 times more expensive as compared to other provinces. In Punjab, you can travel from Lahore to Sindh in 6 hours, but in Quetta, even if I travel for 6 hours, I cannot reach to my neighboring division. And the size of my neighboring Quetta division is, Quetta city is 4 times the size of Islamabad, and Pashin city, which is adjacent to Quetta, it is the 4 times the size of Quetta. And our adjacent division, Rakshan division, is as large as the entire KP and Fata province merged together. So the cost of laying infrastructure, the cost of giving them communication networks, towers, water schemes, it becomes very expensive. Whereas our province does not have that much of resources. Just to give you a comparison, our total budget for development in entire Balochistan is rupees 200 billion, which is less than the entire development budget of Pindi division only. So we are getting less money than, whereas cost of working in Pindi is much lesser than as compared to working in Balochistan. So this is a geographical challenge that we are facing, and we are trying to work over it, work around it, and circumvent it by inviting mines. And I'm telling you that if our mines project is successful in the next 4 to 5 years, Balochistan will be the richest province in Pakistan, inshallah. As far as these terrorists are concerned, we are dealing with them on all levels. General Saab has rightly pointed out that it is not just the law enforcement, is there has to be a whole of the government approach. The recent provincial action plan notified, which was presented to the assembly by the chief minister, it clearly said the first line of that document is that a whole of the government approach is to be formed. And that is why, Sana, in the last 1 year, more than 3,000 schools are opened. 1 million out of school children are put back to schools. 1 million. Mind you, these 1 million kids otherwise would have been fighting against Pakistan in the mountains, but now they are going to school and things will improve. 97% of our schools are now working. Coming over to the health sector, 97% of our health units are now working. 164 new basic health units were formed and now they are functioning. 100,000 people who were otherwise not getting any kind of medical attention and who are going to quacks, 100,000 patients, I mean, they are now coming to our OPD. Things are improving. Similarly, a new initiative, co-founded by the co-commander and the chief minister, was the Balochistan's social development initiative. And this was an initiative in which people were given this power to identify their own projects. So how it happens, deputy commissioner, the force commander, and the MPA, they hold a kuli kachari, and then the people of that kuli kachari tell us that what project do they want. And you will be astonished that the top four priority areas of the entire province were health, education, public health engineering, and CNW. Nobody was worried about law and order, and it is so unfortunate to see that everybody in other province keeps on saying the situation in Balochistan is not good. Alhamdulillah, it is very good. There are such incidents, we fight them, we tackle them, but on the other hand, you must also agree that because of our efforts, in last 3 months, the crime rate in Quetta division only had gone down 70%. But unfortunately, this has happened in the last 2 days. But our response was good, and I hope that we'll be able to prevent such incidents in future, inshallah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamza Shafqaat, for joining us and being a part of the show. There's, of course, of positivity that's happening. And General Zahid, this is important, of course, to address in terms of the ways that this is helping the situation. But at the same time, it's also important to understand and look back and reflect on policies or decision-making that did not go as planned, especially the 2018 appeasement policy that was also cited again by CM Balochistan, and that in terms of adding to the problems, in terms of something that we're still paying the cost for, is a huge decision that went wrong. And so in your case, what do you think is the ways in which the remnants of such a policy are going to be dealt with, and especially for those who still argue that there needs to be engagement? What is your response?
Sana, it is not only 2018. In the past as well, we've had lot many appeasements, lot many things happened since 2003. We have seen North Waziristan, South Waziristan, in Bajor, in Sawat. So this has never worked, and at present it will never work, because unless you don't have right conditions which you will achieve through kinetic application, conditions for a better table, you can't negotiate. And one policy which is now very clear, and state has already decided about this, that no negotiations with the terrorists. We should not label these terrorists as Baloch separatists or Balochi fighters or Pakhtun fighters or something like that. They are anti-Pakistan. They have no religion, no caste, no sect, and they are the biggest enemies of Pakistan. So enemies of Pakistan should be treated according to the response which they deserve. So there is no negotiations. However, if there are political, or social political grievances, yes, we need to talk, but this is not the time. This is not the time. Unless you create an environment, unless you achieve some environment which is better, we have nothing to offer to them. On which terms, what you have to offer to them? This is a simple question. Nobody is, all those who are asking, this is a popular political and social dialogue, we must negotiate, they're our brothers. No, they are no more our brothers. They are not anybody who has picked up arms against the people of Pakistan, against the armed forces of Pakistan, against the government officials, government offices of Pakistan, against our mosques, our schools, our children. They cannot be Pakistanis. There's no negotiation for them. They should be kept in the same box where our worst of the worst enemies are, kept. However, other socio-economic development, that has to be seen. Politicians will have to own this war. They will have to lead this war. It is the politics which prosecute a war. Always remember. As I said earlier, that military response is only 30 to 40%. Rest of the response is lying somewhere else. Yes, we should learn from our mistakes and we should be moving forward. I think the more we talk about these things, we talk more about what happened in the past, we are going nowhere. This is a serious situation. And don't think that enemy will, rest on this. They will come up with new plans, with new strategies, because this is going to be the future way of fighting Pakistan. Otherwise, in conventional domain, alhamdulillah, and in any other domain, they will never succeed in defeating Pakistan. So this is the cheapest, this is the easiest, and in this, they have the plausible deniability of owning anything, So we have to be cognizant of these aspects which I'm mentioning.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, General Zahid, for joining us and being a part of the show today. There's a lot under discussion as to Pakistan's response is going to be, but it's important to understand how Pakistan has already responded to the menace of terrorism, both before and now over the weekend, and of course continues to do so. With more than 177 terrorists killed, it is important to remember that Pakistan's fight against terrorism still continues, and that is something that not only needs such intelligence-based operations, but of course more of the measures that have been part of the National Action Plan and a more comprehensive strategy that Pakistan continues to follow, with zero tolerance for such terrorist groups. And the international community must realize that these elements are being sponsored by India, and so that is an important factor that Pakistan will continue to emphasize on, and that needs international attention. Speaking of India, we're also going to take a look at what is happening, especially in terms of the kind of budget raises that we've seen both in infrastructure, 9%, and in defense, 15%. That is reflecting what India's priorities are, and especially what really is the shift that has taken place, especially after suffering a humiliating defeat at the hands of Pakistan in May last year. And since then, of course, there's been a lot of repercussions for India, not just in terms of its own domestic issues, but also in terms of the geopolitical shifts that we've seen quite apparently, very concerning, particularly in terms of the high tariffs with the United States, and also in terms of the credibility of the Indian forces that have been questioned internationally. We've been joined by Air Commodore Khalid Chishti, and we'll be speaking to him on this. Thank you very much, Chishti Sahab, for being part of the show today. Your perspective in terms of when you hear India raising its defense budget to 15%, a country that has just recently suffered a humiliating defeat by Pakistan, a country that has also lost its credibility as part of its fighter planes in a number of international shows. What does that mean in terms of India making these efforts? Do you think that this seems like a desperate move on India's part?
Thank you very much, Ms. Sana, for inviting me. I think it's all over, spread all over. This is a kind of face saving in the face of humility, the kind of embarrassment, the international isolation, trying to keep the election or the political agenda alive. And there's so many other things are merging together for this, because you must have noticed this since last about 7 months. Indian politicians and the government is saying that Operation Sindoor is still continuing. By that, they want to create a kind of impression in the mind and hearts of the people that the war is still on, we still have to equate the score. And probably that makes the ground for the Indian leadership to go for this extended budget, because the people are more and more convinced that probably the government is going to do something to equate the score. But I heard it from the General Zahid also, that I think they may come up with anything. I think more of a political slogan and less of a materialism. And on top of that, even if they increase the budget and buy in the hardware, the military machinery, that does not get integrated overnight. That does not come into operation and obviously ready to shoot the enemy in hours and days and weeks and months. It takes years of training, concerted efforts, a great kind of passion, obviously, and technological advantage that they should be master of. I think it's a combination of all. It doesn't work so well. Publicly, they can do that, obviously satisfy the people, but in reality, it's still a long call.
Right, and Shizab, in terms of the kind of shift that's seen in the ways that international audiences are looking at the capabilities of the Indian forces, do you think that just increasing the defense budget is going to be able to address those issues? Because it's not just about military prowess or equipment, it's a lot to do with the kind of systems that they have in place, the kind of HR they have in place. What are they going to be doing about that with a high budget?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ms. Sana, because the technology or the number, they already had the advantage. They had 36 Rafale, and they had 2 squadrons of the Rafale, which is the most modern jet. We only had J-10C 1 squadron only. The number is not a probably advantageous position, which probably they wanted to have, did not give them last time. And still, buying equipment is one thing, employing equipment and obviously winning them through putting them across into a winning stream is something altogether different. Uh, Equipment wise, they had the best of surface to air missile, which is S-400. They had the Israeli drones that we saw there. They had obviously the Rafale. They had Su-30, and I can go on and on. But did all that fleet made the difference? Did not make the difference. Why? Because integration is altogether different. Fighting like one unit, one integrated I've been saying, probably I may have said in your channel earlier also, the war is no more a kind of bullet versus bullet, jet versus jet, tank versus tank. It is now orchestration. You have to integrate, obviously, all these equipment. Obviously, it's may not find relevant, but it's like a music. Everything has to be in rhythm, well in time, and obviously delivering what is expected out of that. That is what is needed probably, and I think that is what India is lacking in.
Right. And what do you think, Chishti Saab, is the impact of these aspects in the region as well, in terms of what it does to regional players, especially increasing militarization or increasing defense budgets? What do you think that will mean for regional players and the way that they're going to be viewing India?
Ms. Sana, it's so unfortunate that we live in a region where we have almost over 23% of the population, almost the SAARC countries that we used to call Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and India, of course. And this is making 22 and 23% of the total population of the world. We do the internal trade hardly 5% of what we do with the rest of the world. The reason is it's because of the hegemonic designs of India, obviously. India does not have any good relations with any or most of the countries. And probably Bangladesh was left. Now you see it's written on the wall what kind of relation are they having with India. And they brought all the obviously the politics into the cricket also. So that what I'm trying to share is that basically they may continue to increase the budget just to satisfy their people, obviously for electoral reasons and other obviously emotional satisfaction. But in reality, the world is watching all that. Obviously, they would have been justified had they won the war, God forbid. They would have shown their might. They would have proven it to the world that the money that the countrymen spend on Indian armed forces is worth because they've displayed what they were supposed to do. But what they did obviously come up with the kind of expectation of their people. And now, just by increasing the budget, probably it doesn't solve the purpose. It will only solve the purpose through years of training, the integration, and obviously having a kill picture. And above all, the commitment. And I've been saying many times that you have to have your cause justified before you go into war. And if you want to fight a war which is justified, you will have the performance justified. The Indian didn't have anything. Their cause was not justified in May 2025. So was the war not justified. And obviously, the performance obviously was not justified. The world was watching. The Indians have watched. But just by increasing the budget, probably will not take the armed forces anywhere.
Right, and Shtisam, in the ways that we're taking a look at these developments taking place, especially in the aftermath of the uncertainty around Greenland, we've seen a lot of these countries looking towards each other and moving away from dependency on the West. And India, of course, also sought to expand its ties with different countries, including that with China. There's also the very integral nexus that's developing with Afghanistan, and that's, of course, impacting Pakistan too. In terms of these alliances, do you think that with India's lack of credibility and the kind of position that it is right now, it will be able to garner the kind of support that it wants from these regional and international players, especially with the United States already imposing such high tariffs, and with the President of the United States also in his own rhetoric not being very proud of any of his engagements with the Indian Prime Minister?
Ms. Sana, you see, India has been able to sign a deal with they call the mother of all agreements or deals with the European Union, no doubt about it. But again, the credit or discredit goes to President Trump. Why? Because the President Trump has obviously pushed out NATO on one side, obviously antagonized EU because of so many other conflicts. It not been comfortable with Russia, China, and above all with India. Obviously, when you push out people, obviously do not engage them. When you disengage them or insult them publicly, especially their leaders, obviously they tend to get obviously connected within each other. And this is what has happened. The EU was pushed out, obviously embarrassed so many times. Greenland issue, Venezuela, and the world has seen that President Trump probably 1951, NATO was signed. All European and NATO countries most of the time were feeling comfortable with America, that America was supposed to look after the security of the NATO countries. Now they found out the America itself is obviously trying to threaten capturing different lands. So I think it's a new learning for these countries. And that is why, on the other hand, we found out the India being isolated by the American president, particularly. So obviously they found a marriage of convenience. They came closer to each other. So nothing to do with lasting. It's more of the grudge or insult or kind of isolation being felt by these countries from the American president that has brought them closer. Obviously, we'll have to see whether it's lasting, or tomorrow President Trump, as he's being unpredictable most of the time, might engage these countries again, and obviously it could be India left with not a lot of options what we see today.
Right. Thank you very much, Khalid Chishti, for joining us and being a part of the newsroom today. There's a lot of discussions, of course, around what India represents, and this is something that we have seen a lot in the economic and political realms too. But especially when we take a look at India as a whole, there seems to be many decisions that it's doing wrong, and that, of course, is putting away the kind of credibility that it asks to be presented, which is seeing the cracks that the international community also is recognizing. And while, of course, the defense or infrastructure budgets are increasing, money cannot buy everything. We're now going to focus on a last segment that focuses on Pakistan's decision to not put in the cricket team on field with India on the 15th of February as part of the T20 World Cup. And this decision of the PCB comes in light of the earlier double standards that were presented against Bangladesh. And because of that, we've seen that a lot of this ruckus is being created. Again, another area where politics are being dragged into the sports ground. And for that, we've also been joined by Mohammad, Kamruzzaman, who's a Bangladeshi journalist, and we'll speak to him with regards to how he views the situation. Thank you very much, Kamruzzaman, for being part of the show. What do you first make of Pakistan's decision and the Pakistan Cricket Board announcing that it will not be putting forward its team on ground on the 15th of February against India in solidarity with Bangladesh?
Thank you very much. Actually, it's a very complicated issue. And the decision that the Pakistan has taken is, of course, a matter of Pakistan, and they have taken their decision based on their situation. But my position or my opinion is very straightforward and very clear that actually cricket or football, this type of games always make the recreation for the people. The world is in a very volatile situation. Sometimes there are so many tensions. So people sometimes see or watch this type of games for recreation. But this type of incident actually unexpected. But my observation is that actually this was happened due to the previous incident. If the ICC role was very much impartial when India first refused to visit Pakistan for cricket at that time. If what ICC is doing now when Bangladesh refused to go to India or Pakistan now refused to go to India. If ICC's position was the same when India first refused earlier, then maybe this type of incident never happened. And at that time, ICC supported or stood in favor of India. And later, just look about Bangladesh, when just Mustafizur Rahman is a very simple cricketer, is a very polite and gentle player, but some Indian extremist people, they raised a demonstration, and Indian government just imposed order on their cricket board not to hire Mustafiz. That's very unexpected, and Bangladeshi people are so much shocked, and the Bangladesh government. Then and then when Bangladesh rejected to go there, because if there are so many that type of fragile position of Indian government, that even a simple cricketer is not allowed to play there. So how can India ensure the safety security of thousands of Bangladeshi people who will go to enjoy that match? So Bangladesh very logically decided not to go there and requested ICC to arrange the match in Sri Lanka, but ICC rejected. So actually the incident was happened by India first, and then ICC supported India. So now the situation escalated, and it's very unexpected. And actually, I am not an analyst of games, but my simple view is that for this unexpected situation, India first responsible, and then of course ICC. But it should be resolved in a very amicable way, and game or cricket, football, this type of issues should always be out of politics.
Absolutely, and Mr. Kamal, I absolutely understand your point and agree with you on how this needs to be separated from any sort of political judgments. And sports is definitely a recreational activity and something that brings everybody together. But at the same time, there are systemic flaws that you yourself pointed out as part of what the ICC had earlier decided to, that need to be addressed, that have politicized the game altogether. And so, given the certain circumstances we see ourselves in, what do you think could then be the response of the government of Bangladesh or the Cricket Board of Bangladesh, or in terms of making headway into what the ICC should have done? What do you think needs to be the systematic response to bring about this change and ensure that no political decision making is made on such tournaments?
Actually, seemingly, Bangladeshi people, they were so much shocked after hearing that a very simple request that raised Bangladesh and ICC could have arranged the match in Sri Lanka, but Bangladesh was singled out from this big match. That was a dream match for Bangladeshi people, Bangladeshi cricketers. But ICC did it in support of India. So people are shocked, and now they lose their interest to this game, to the upcoming match. So now Pakistan has taken decision this. So Bangladeshi people actually, those who are very much a fan of cricket, they're taking it positively, and actually in here in Bangladesh, most of the cricket fans, they support Pakistani team, and almost 80 or 90% when there are matches between Pakistan and India, Bangladeshi people support wholeheartedly Pakistani match. So after Bangladesh was singled out, then if Pakistan, in solidarity with the fragile or agony of Bangladesh, now they have rejected. So Bangladesh, of course, take it positively, especially Bangladesh cricket fans. I'm not thinking about the authorities or complicated logics of the authorities. But my position, again, as a simple citizen of this country, I want to solve it in an amicable way, and India should avoid their stubbornness, and of course ICC should be very impartial and should resolve it very logically, not being influenced or being impressed by India.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamruzzaman, for joining us and being a part of the discussion today. There's, of course, a lot that needs to be put in place in terms of how we're going to separate politics and sports. But when the system is acting in ways that is not in favor of sports, and, of course, is prejudicing against certain elements and favoring certain over others, there is something that needs to be done about it. And for that, of course, action has to be taken, agency has to be involved. And this is, of course, important also in terms of alliances that we form internationally. And so Pakistan has stood in solidarity with Bangladesh, and it's important to be able to address these issues in ways to counter any such possibilities to happen in the future, because no such decision of double standards should be something that needs to be executed without consequences. That's all that we have from the newsroom today. We'll now see you tomorrow.